The moment my daughter walked down that aisle, I should have felt proud. Instead, I felt like a stranger paying to watch his own funeral. I'm Grandpa Joe, 67, retired contractor, and apparently the villain in my daughter's fairy tale wedding. You see, I paid $300,000 for that wedding. Every flower, every sequin on her designer gown, every glass of overpriced champagne. I'd promised her years ago that when she got married, she'd have the day of her dreams. I kept my word, but she didn't. Let me start at the beginning. When my wife died 10 years ago, it was just me and my daughter, Lily. She was my whole world. I worked overtime to send her to college, paid for her apartment, helped her start her event planning business. I never remarried, didn't even date. People called me Grandpa Joe around town because I spoiled every kid in the neighborhood like my own grandchild. But Lily was my only child. Then she met Ethan. Ethan was slick, the kind of man who smiled too perfectly, who held your gaze a second too long while figuring out your weaknesses. He came from money, or at least he wanted everyone to think he did. The first time we met, he wore a watch that cost more than my truck, but drove a borrowed BMW, Red Flag City. But Lily was smitten, and I love my daughter. So I smiled, shook his hand, and kept my doubts to myself. 2 years later, they got engaged. Lily called me, crying happy tears. "Dad," he proposed in Paris, in front of the Eiffel Tower. I congratulated her, heart swelling. Then she mentioned the wedding budget. Ethan says he wants something elegant. Maybe $200,000 total? I almost dropped the phone. That was more than I'd paid for our house 30 years ago. But I'd promised. "Whatever you want, sweetheart," I said. Over the next year, the costs climbed. Venue upgrades, imported orchids, custom menus. I quietly sold a piece of land I'd been saving for retirement. I even cashed out an old life insurance policy. Every time she thanked me, it made it worth it. Until she stopped thanking me. The first real crack came at the rehearsal dinner. Ethan's mother, Patricia, picture a Botoxed vulture in pearls, kept making jokes about Lily finally marrying up. Then she announced that she and her husband would be hosting the entire event. I blinked. Hosting? I leaned over to Lily. "Sweetheart, what does she mean, hosting?" I thought. She cut me off with a whispered, "Dad, please, not tonight." That was the first time she'd ever spoken to me like that. I stayed quiet, but something in my chest turned cold. The wedding day arrived in a storm of white roses and stress. I showed up early, wearing the same cufflinks my wife had given me on our wedding day. I figured Lily might like a sentimental touch. When she appeared in her gown, she looked breathtaking, like her mother. I told her so. She smiled, distracted, already half-turned toward Ethan's mother, fussing over her veil. I waited for my moment, for that father-daughter moment I'd been dreaming of. It never came. The photographer directed everyone for the family portraits. When I stepped up beside Lily, Patricia stopped me. "Oh, sorry, Joe. We're just doing immediate family for this set." I stared at her, then at Lily. She looked away. I thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe they'd do another set later. But that later never came. Then came the ceremony. The priest asked, "Who gives this woman away?" Tradition, right? I was ready. My cue. But Ethan's father stepped forward. He said, "Her family and I do." Her family, not her father, not me. The guests laughed softly, thinking it was some modern twist. I didn't laugh. I stood there, frozen, while my daughter avoided my eyes. In that moment, something inside me broke. At the reception, I tried to brush it off. Maybe nerves, maybe confusion. I kept smiling, clinking glasses, playing the proud father. Then came the speeches. Patricia gave a long toast about the unity of two families. Ethan's father talked about how grateful they were to host this celebration. Everyone clapped. When Lily stood up, I thought, here it is. She'll mention me, thank me. Something. But she didn't. She thanked Ethan's incredible parents for their generosity and love. She never mentioned mine. Not once. Not the money, not the years, not even my name. By dessert, people were coming up to congratulate the groom's family for pulling off such a beautiful event. I just nodded and sipped my wine. I left early. No scene, no tears, just slipped out before the last dance. On my way home, I stopped by the bank. The next morning, I called the venue, the florist, the caterer, every vendor. You see, I'd put the deposits in my name, all $300,000 worth. Every final payment was still pending. When the bills came due, I didn't pay. 2 weeks later, my phone exploded with calls. Lily was frantic. "Dad! The vendors are saying their checks bounced." "What's going on?" I told her calmly. "Oh, that's strange. I thought Ethan's parents were hosting silence." Then, through clenched teeth, "Dad, please don't ruin this for me." I said, "Sweetheart, I already did my part. I paid for what mattered, raising you, giving you a future. But respect? That's something money can't buy." She hung up. It's been 6 months since the wedding. I haven't heard from her, not once. I get updates from neighbors, little whispers. Apparently, she and Ethan are struggling with debt. The vendors sued them for unpaid balances. Ethan's wealth was smoke and mirrors. I didn't enjoy hearing that. I didn't gloat, but I also didn't bail them out. Last week, though, I got a letter, handwritten, from Lily. It said, "Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I let them make me feel ashamed of where I came from. Ethan's parents wanted control, and I let them take it. Now they're gone, and all I have left are bills and regrets. Please forgive me. I miss Mom. I miss you." I sat at my kitchen table for an hour, staring at that letter. Then I smiled, just a little. Because forgiveness is easy. Trust is not. I wrote back, "Greater than, you'll always be my daughter, Lily. But next time you throw a wedding, make sure it's built on love, not money." Last Sunday, I went to the park to feed the ducks. A little girl ran up, tugged at my sleeve, and handed me a flower. "Happy Sunday, Grandpa Joe," she said. Her smile reminded me of Lily at that age. Pure, unguarded, real. And I realized something. I may have lost a daughter that day, but I gained back my self-respect. Because family isn't who poses with you in photos. It's who remembers your name when the spotlight fades. Moral: never pay for someone to forget you.